December 28th, 2017. The time is 10:52 p.m. in the town of Wichita, Kansas. A 28-year-old man named Andrew Finch was home with his family, his mother, and his 2 young children. With the date being a few days after Christmas, nothing about the night should have been unusual. At some point, Andrew heard a commotion outside, and he went to see what was happening. He opened the front door, stepped onto the porch, and never came back inside. Earlier that evening in Los Angeles, California, a 25-year-old man sat inside a public library and connected to his free Wi-Fi. His name was Tyler Riberas, but online he called himself Swatistic. Using a voice-over IP service, a tool that masks your real location and lets you appear to be calling from anywhere, Barris dialed the Wichita Police Department and asked to speak with 911. Because of how the call was routed through Wichita City Hall, it appeared to dispatchers as a local call, and everything about it looked legitimate. Then Barris began to speak. He told dispatchers that his name was Brian, that he was at 1033 West McCormick Street, and he confessed to shooting his father in the head, and that he was holding his mother and sibling at gunpoint. He closed out the phone call with threats that he was going to burn down the house with gasoline. None of this was true. But the Wichita Police Department had no way of knowing that, and so they responded the way any law enforcement agency would. They surrounded the house at West McCormick Street. They set up their positions. Officers took cover. One officer, a 7-year veteran named Justin Rapp, positioned himself across the street with a rifle. They had no reason to believe anything other than what they had been told, that there was a killer inside the house. Inside, Andrew Finch's mother noticed the police lights through the window, and she opened the front door to see what was happening. As soon as this happened, her son pushed past her and stepped onto the porch. And what happened next lasted only seconds. Officers ordered Finch to raise his hands. He began to comply, then according to the officer's testimony, he stopped and moved his hands downward. Officer Rapp fired one shot. The bullet pierced Andrew Finch's heart and right lung. He was transported to Ascension Hospital, and 17 minutes later, he was pronounced dead. Andrew Finch was an innocent man who had no idea who Tyler even was. He was simply a father of 2, standing in his own doorway, confused about why the police were outside of his home on a cold Thursday night. So why would Barris, a man with no connection to Andrew, send the police to his house? 2 people were playing Call of Duty World War II online on the evening of the same day that this tragic event happened. One was Casey Viner, an 18-year-old from North College Hill, Ohio, gamertag BapeRiser. The other was Shane Gaskill, a 19-year-old from Wichita, Kansas, gamertag Miracle. The 2 gamers had a wager on the match that they were playing, totaling up to $1.50. The kind of amount you wouldn't think twice about losing anywhere else in your life. But in the world of online gaming, where competition is fierce, trash talk is currency, and anonymous identities can carry enormous personal weight, it was apparently enough. The match ended and someone lost, and what followed suit was an argument. We don't know exactly what was said, but we do know how it escalated. Viner threatened to have Gaskill swatted, and if you're unfamiliar with this term, it is exactly what it sounds like. It's the practice of making false emergency calls to police, usually claiming a violent crime is in progress, with the goal of getting police to send heavily armed tactical teams to respond. The intent is intimidation, humiliation, and sometimes fear, and it had become, in certain corners of the internet, unfortunately, almost casual. Gaskill, rather than backing down, essentially called the bluff. He handed Viner an address that wasn't his address. He gave Viner the address of the house where his family used to live, 1033 West McCormick Street, before they had been evicted back in 2016. He said in effect, "Go ahead and come find me." He knew he wouldn't be there, and he believed that the address was still unoccupied, or that nothing would come of it. He was very wrong. Viner took the address and contacted someone who actually could make it happen. That someone was Tyler Barris. Tyler Riberas was born November 9th, 1922 in Los Angeles, California. His father died when he was young. His mother eventually left him to be raised by his grandmother, and by his own attorney's account, Barris was a loner who found his sense of community online. He wanted at one point to be a professional Halo player, but that never materialized. What took its place was something far darker. He became a serial swatter, online under the alias Swatistic, a name that itself is a reference to the act. Barris had built up an online reputation, and he claimed credit for over 100 fake calls to police across the country. Schools, residencies, government buildings, it didn't matter. He called in bomb threats to KABC TV in Los Angeles, He threatened an elementary school and a middle school, and he was actually caught once and convicted. He was sentenced to 2 years in jail in Los Angeles County and was released in January 2017, less than a year before that horrible night in Wichita. He did it for money sometimes, but he mainly did it for the thrill. In a conversation with security researcher Brian Krebs, hours after Andrew Finch's death, Barris described the rush of evading detection. It said almost casually, "Bomb threats are more fun and cooler than SWATs in my opinion, and I should have just stuck to that." Tyler knew the risk. He had been swatted himself, so he claimed, which was partially why he started to do it to others. When Viner contacted him about the Wichita address, Barris didn't hesitate. He sat down in the Los Angeles Public Library, connected to the Wi-Fi, and made the call. He had no idea who lived at 1033 West McCormick Street, nor did he ask. After the shooting before his arrest, Barris posted on Twitter, "I didn't get anyone killed because I didn't discharge a weapon." He was arrested the following day, December 29th, in Los Angeles, and extradited to Kansas in January 2018. 3 men were ultimately held responsible for what happened to Andrew Finch. Casey Viner, the one who made the threat and gave the address to Barris, was 18 years old. He pled guilty to conspiracy and obstruction of justice and was sentenced to 15 months in federal prison and 2 years of supervised release. Shane Gaskill, the one who handed over the wrong address, knowing it would send a police response somewhere, was sentenced to 18 months in prison. The address he gave was to a home where he no longer lived, and he may have thought it was a bluff, but he handed it over. And he said essentially, "Come find me," knowing that it wouldn't be him who the cops found. And Tyler Barris, the man who made the call, pled guilty to 51 federal charges in November 2018. The charges ranged from across multiple states and included financial fraud, dozens of fake threats to schools and residences, and one count of making a false report resulting in death. In March 2019, he was sentenced to 20 years in federal prison. He's currently incarcerated at the Federal Correctional Institution in Phoenix, Arizona, with an expected release date of January 14th, 2035. As part of his plea agreement, Barris was required to formally apologize to Andrew Finch's family and pay $10,100 in fines and restitution. As for the officer who fired the fatal shot at Justin Rapp, he was not charged with any crime and testified that he believed Finch had a gun, and that Finch's hand movement suggested he was about to open fire on his fellow officers. He acknowledged he never actually saw a weapon, and he was placed on administrative leave during the internal investigation. He was subsequently promoted. Finch's family filed a civil lawsuit, and the city of Wichita approved a $5 million settlement. Andrew Finch was 28 years old. He was a father of 2. His mother, Lisa Finch, was inside the house when it happened. She told reporters that her son screamed as they shot him. She has since spoken publicly about her son and about the lawsuit, about wanting accountability, not just criminal, but also systemic. Because Barris, Viner, and Gaskill all served and are still in prison, but the broader question didn't go away with the sentencing. In months after Finch's death, the Kansas state legislature passed a bill creating a new felony. Causing a false alarm resulting in injury or death carries a sentence of 10 to 41 years. It was named the Andrew T. Finch Memorial Act. Swatting hasn't stopped since then. High-profile cases continue to occur against streamers, politicians, journalists, and ordinary people who have been targeted. The FBI estimates thousands of swatting incidents occur every year in the United States. Most do end without injury, but there are a few that don't. The dispute that set all this in motion was about $1.50 over a match in an online game, in an argument between 2 people who had never met in person and probably never would.